Okay, Lancaster 11 League Media Day. Andy Hurd, Bruce Badgley. Gosh, I don't know how many coaches we talked to today, but boy, all of them so great. Andy and I, just some final thoughts on the day, and maybe some thoughts on the upcoming season, my friend.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were joking with a lot of coaches who came in, and you and I both. It's a long day, and you still can't get to everybody. So first of all, we apologize if we didn't get to you.
Yeah.
It was nothing personal whatsoever. It just we know a lot of media guys are fighting for a lot of different people. So, but no, it's a great operation they run here. First class facilities. I think everybody likes it, and as you can tell, everybody is just so juiced and ready to go. And sort of like on the football aspect, this is the unofficial, official kickoff of the season. And I'll be honest, even talking to some of these coaches, I think I learned some stuff that I didn't know prior to walking in the door today. So that's always the benefit and the use for a day like this.
For me, it's just looking at the coaches direct in the eye. It's completely different when you've got a coach on the phone. When you're looking at a coach and he's sitting right next to you there, and you're looking him in the eye. And plus, I think that the coaches were very forthcoming. Nobody was really sugarcoating anything. I mean, and they shouldn't. They know that everybody knows everybody else here. So it's no secret as to, same thing with you, as to what kind of teams that they're bringing to the table. Now it comes down to execution and hearing the coaches talk about, their off-season programs and how they manage their team and philosophy. To me, that's the beneficial item there too, because like I said, everybody knows what they're bringing to the table, right?
Yeah, they do. And I think what was also kind of nice and appreciative of is like sometimes the teams that you think as an outsider are sort of like the top of the line of who's going to be in the pecking order. So they were very quite candid. And most of them was like, hey, we know in Section 2, we're going to have to go through Warwick. And in Section 1, we're probably going to go through Cedar Crest and stuff like that. So it was nice that everyone was sort of like you mentioned, like forthcoming and honest with where they stack up and who they're looking at and everything like that. And I'll be honest, one of the other thing too is I think this is going to be a lot more open league this year than a lot of people might have, perceived before they, came in here today. I think Section 4, we mentioned it. I think Section 4 is going to be very deep, very competitive. It's just beneficial all the way around for me at least. So.
Yeah, I mean, just some, overall thoughts there. Obviously Section 1 going to be very interesting. I was really impressed with, quite honestly, with Chris Uffner. I mean, Here's a guy, taking over a program in his second year, was very honest about, the state of the program. But you can see why administration chose this guy to be their head basketball coach, because I found him to be very impressive. For me in Section 2, Chris Christensen. I mean, and the way that he talked about his team, and so many times coaches are kind of sugarcoat what they have, but he was, like I said, candid and honest. On Section 3 there. Ed Behrman, every time I talk with Ed, he's just so impressive. And whether it's we're sitting, side by side, or whether I'm talking to him pregame, I just have enormous amount of respect. Kerry Glover, the Section 4 guys.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you what, I don't know who's going to come out of that. All these guys are just frothing at the mouth right now. Kerry Glover, Jeff Hartenstein, John Scholes. I mean, those three teams, for their classification, that could be the toughest section in those classifications in the state of Pennsylvania. What do you think?
It is. I can't disagree a whole lot with that, because what's unique is for the league playoffs, you only got 2 spots to go around, and you're going to have a 3A team, a 2A state champ, and a team that's going to be very dangerous in 1A who made the state playoffs a year ago. So, yeah, Section 4 for me, I think, is the most intriguing. Again, as we sort of talked with some of the coaches, they might not necessarily get all of the eyeballs and the notoriety as like some of the big boys do, but I'd become very familiar with Section 4, because that's going to be pretty darn fun to watch because there's only 2 slots to go around, and more than 2 teams certainly deserving of those 2 bids.
Yeah, Freddie Ramos said McCaskey as well. I mean, talking about the height that he hasn't had. I mean, this is an angle of offense that they like to get out and run and what have you. Now the fact that he's got some big guys that can actually get under the basket. And then get those guys, out on the break a lot quicker, I thought, was very interesting. And Matt Johns, with Township, obviously seemed, very upbeat. Jim Shipper and his relationship with his son Ryan.
Yeah, that was cool.
As we explored that today too. Just so many storylines that you wouldn't necessarily get from a piece of paper, that we've got out here on video for everybody to watch. I want to thank Del Jackson for, obviously kind of orchestrating it, at home here today, because it's been a total team effort. I, Del, and it seemed like a lot of the coaches and that seemed very appreciative of what we're doing here at LL Hoops.
Yeah, and I think so too. And like I said, this is always fun to interact with everybody else. It's sort of like a family reunion in some ways. You see all your old friends, and the season is right here. It's actually starting in less than 7 days, so it's coming very fast, and this is going to be a fun year for the league, I think. And one of the other things too is I try to ask as many coaches as I could with the rule change, with the foul reset and everything like that. Sure. It was interesting to see how maybe they think they're going to approach it. Maybe
it looks like
their answers might be different once they start doing it.
Some of them haven't even addressed it. I mean, that they've had other things to worry about other than the rule change.
Well, and nailing down their rotation and how many guys they want to play. They're still figuring that out. And to be honest, a rotation thing is only something you're going to figure out once you start seeing the live bullets and
Right. Once they see who their guys are there. Scott Gaffey was just a lot of fun as he always is. Charlie Fisher, the same thing.
He could still be here talking to us if he wanted to.
Absolutely. That's what I think more so basketball coaches than really any other coach that we have in high school, that the personas, are just fantastic, and I think that permeates the play of their teams. Is for basketball, it's going to trickle down into those guys out on the court, and they're going to be reflective of the coach, right?
No, there's no doubt. I mean, you just talked about, Kerry Glover. He said verbatim, he's like, I got a dog in me. And that's true. I mean, I said you cannot be soft and play for Coach Glover at Columbia. So that's just one example of that. I talked about with Matt Johns. I mean, he is the epitome of a hoop head. And I asked him, you guys run great stuff offensively. What are you stealing? Where are you getting your plays? And all that stuff. And he's saying, I'm watching the NBA. I'm doing this. So it's like, you're right. There's a lot of, you can see a lot of these teams in the coaches themselves. And it's a fun league to cover, and I hope we do a good job with it. And days like today are extremely fun.
Yeah, I think we will too. And really, the one for me that kind of stood out of obviously we've been talking about all these coaches interviews or whatever like that is Tommy Smith there at Cedar Crest. Clearly, I think he understands that there are pretty high expectations for his team, and they've got to fulfill those expectations. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. They have to. They've sort of been crescendoing to this year over the last couple. I mean, they started these same kids as sophomores when they were really, really young. They kind of sort of took their lumps in that year. I think he, to a man, would say, I wish, maybe we had a little bit better year than we did last year, but they still made playoffs. They still turned it around late. But yeah, I mean, Cedar Crest is definitely a team that, again, as you said, they epitomize their coach. They play with an edge, and they're going to have to, because everyone's going to be gunning for them, not just in the section, but league-wide, because if you're asking who are we handicapping to make it to Township, it's got to be right at the tip of everyone's tongue.
And that was going to be my next question. Obviously, we didn't talk to all the coaches, but we talked to a lot of coaches, and then, obviously everybody knows everybody else here, in the Lancaster 11 League as far as basketball. And, Cedar Crest, obviously the odds, I think if we did a coaches poll of, who would be number one, it would be Cedar Crest, right?
I would think so. I mean, Warwick is probably right on their heels with that.
Sure.
But there's, you're always going to have sort of your sleeper cell type teams. I said before, I really like Manheim Township. I think they're going to bring a lot to the table in sort of a wide open Section 1. If you want to say Cedar Crest is going to get one of those seeds in the league tournament and everything like that. And what's interesting here is I'm sitting here talking about this is we're saying, like, who's going to get these bids from these sections? Because I think that part of the reason why is we make such a big deal, and rightly so, of our league tournament. That's not the same for everybody else. Mid-Penn is strategically playing themselves into districts, as maybe they rightly should, because they typically perform better there. But
they're legitimate Section 4 teams that could win the Lancaster Lebanon League Championship this year.
There could, because I don't think you have a top-heavy like a Hempfield last year to where, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be a case of you're going to have a team down in Section 4 like a Columbia, or last year like a Mennonite who, just won a state championship. But like when you play a Section 1 team, it's just different. Like big boy basketball is just different. Mm-hmm. But there doesn't really seem to be a true Goliath. And again, if you want to go down to Section 4, I'm telling you, those are some scary teams.
Yeah, right. Charlie Fisher's going to have something to say about the end result there with Manheim Central too. So I think that's really what's great about this. We get to talk to all the coaches. We get to connect the dots, so to speak, here before the season. But I look forward to be as fun a Lancaster Lebanon League season that I've been involved in, obviously with LL Hoops. I can tell you that, because it does look to be wide open. It does look to be very talent laden, and I think that it's going to lend itself to a lot of exciting basketball all the way into March. What do you think?
That's the plan, right? Keep playing as long as you possibly can. Last year we were fortunate enough to do so. Don't really know if there's a state champion team in our mix this year, but who knows? I mean, we'll see how it shakes out. But you're right; it should be a fun year as it always is, and this is a great league to cover. And we're starting in less than 7 days, like I said.
Yeah,
let's get rolling.
Well, listen, thanks to our buddy Del Jackson behind the scenes today, getting all this stuff out, and for everything he does with LL Hoops. And listen, thank you for tuning in. And obviously, it starts in just about a week here.
Friday.
And we'll bring it all to you. Thanks so much, and look for you down the road.